All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to PCR's February Tips and Virtual Transition Times meeting. My name is Melissa Wyman, and I am PCR's Respite Care and Community Engagement Director. I will be your moderator this evening, so please feel free to send any questions or comments in the chat box below. We are so excited to be collaborating with Montgomery County Public Schools MCPS Transition Service Unit to provide an enhanced transition times program for transitioning youth, their families, and caregivers. We are delighted to offer this presentation with American Sign Language simultaneous interpretation. We will also be offering this presentation with Spanish simultaneous interpretation. To access the other interpretation services, at the bottom of your screen, select Interpretation, select Spanish for the Spanish interpretation, mute original audio if you only want to hear one language. The English and Spanish language versions will be archived on the PCR website Transition Times page. Just some Zoom tip reminders. We are using the webinar platform. We will wait for questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to submit any of your questions in the chat box below. Click Show Captions to see the captions for the webinar. You must select the speaking language you would like to show. Also, for funding needs, it's very important to receive feedback from our attendees. Please answer the one question poll by the end of the webinar. Thank you for your help and feedback. All right, tonight we're so excited to get started. Yolanda?
Good evening. I am so pleased to be here. This is one of my more favorite presentations to do on an annual basis. So if it's okay with you all, I am going to share my screen for my presentation. So I'm the executive director, or actually the CEO of Shared Horizons. And Shared Horizons was created to manage two types of pooled special needs trusts. The Wesley Venner Memorial Trust, which is a first party pooled special needs trust, and Shared Horizons third party community trust. The third party community trust is going to be my focus for this evening, simply because all of you are parents and you will need to have that information as we or as you begin to or continue to look into your estate planning for your son or daughter or grandchild for continued planning in your estate. So, Shared Horizons, as I mentioned, is a nonprofit organization, and I can't believe we've been around since 2004. I've been in this role since 2005, and I've been here for 21 years. I can't believe it's been that long. And we only serve people with disabilities. You have to have a disability in order to have a special needs trust of any type. Shared Horizons was created based upon my experience in social services. So we deliver an individualized trust service as a part of our person-centered model. And service delivery adhering to our organizational values of we engage every beneficiary and their support network with compassion, integrity, and commitment. And that's truly important for us to continue to do what we do to ensure that all of our beneficiaries and families that join our trusts have a individualized and personalized experience, because everyone is different that comes to us, and we appreciate that. So estate planning, it for many of you, you may be working with an estate planning attorney, you may be thinking about it, and some of you may have no clue that you may need to work with an estate planner. So there's a myth that seems to happen and seems to permeate this field, And a lot of parents come to me and they say, well, I don't really have any assets, so I really don't have to develop a or work with anyone to develop an estate plan. And they say, only the wealthy need to develop an estate plan. And that's not true. Estate planning is important for everyone, regardless of what you have, your bank account, but especially for families that has a child or children with disabilities.
Yolanda, we
So
don't see any slides.
oh, you don't see my slides?
No. Sorry, I didn't want to
Ah,
interrupt, but we didn't see any of your slides.
I don't know what's happening.
Do you see them?
Margie, yes, I can see
Okay.
them. I'm going to end my show and I'm going to go back to Margie if you want to control it. I think it was because I probably didn't wasn't made to host. Thank you. There we go. Keep going. I apologize for that. And then the next one. So estate planning is basic 101, and I'm just going to briefly go through these because for those of you that are working with an attorney, planning to work with an attorney, or you have an appointment, or you're considering working with an estate planning attorney, just want to give you just a brief overview of what they are going to do with you. There are three areas of focus that they should engage you. The one is, they're going to work with paper. When you secure the attorney, they're going to help you organize all of your documents, your will, and they're going to guide you through all of what you visualize and all that you want to include in your estate plan. They're going to help you identify your finances or the money that you need to or that you want to include in that estate plan for your son or daughter or grandchild that you want to serve as or identify as beneficiary for whatever you have. And they're going to include in that, and they should talk to you about establishing a third party special needs trust. Now, a third party special needs trust can be an individual trust, which is an opportunity for you to hire an attorney to draft the document. Sometimes the estate planning attorney can do that for you. Sometimes they have a connection with an estate planning attorney that will work with you and draft that document. Or you can come to an organization like Shared Horizons, and there are other organizations in Maryland that that already hired the attorney to draft the document. And that document, what we call a master trust document, is the overview of the third party trust. And the only thing a parent would need to do is to sign and complete a joinder agreement. So the reason they say that we are pooled is because there's one trust document that was drafted by the attorney, and they allow us to pool assets for investment purposes. So the best example I can get is right now we have over $50 million under management. But if you decide to join Shared Horizons and it comes time to fund that third party trust, you may fund it with $500,000, you may fund it with $200,000, whatever that amount. We're going to add that amount to the pool that's already invested. And it allows your money to earn better, potentially better products and better investments that will potentially result in better returns for the amount that you are putting in. So, but the other important thing is that keep in mind the trust is a small part of your estate plan. So again, the attorney, back up to the paper, they're going to work with you and they're going to help you decide and to work through all of the moving parts that should be included in your estate plan. And the special needs trust is just a small part of that. They're going to also and should also talk to you about people. They should talk to you about, developing that support network, whether you have it right now, and then helping you think about the future. Once you are, and this is the one thing that a lot of parents, or every parent actually, says to us, when I am no longer here, or my husband or my wife or grandparents are no longer here, what is that going to look like for my son or daughter or grandchild? Who is going to provide that daily support for them? That attorney will help you connect with some of the organizations that can help you plan and provide that or develop that support network so that you can now begin to work with them so that you are essentially training them, working with them to understand the needs of your loved one that you are establishing the third party trust for. The next slide. And this is just, I just threw this in because this is why planning is important, because if you don't plan, you're going to miss something. You're going to um, uh, omit pieces of your estate that are and could be critical for your son or daughter as they begin to enjoy the special needs trust and the estate plan that you establish. The next slide. So why is planning important for families with loved ones with disabilities? You may not have, or your son or daughter may not have public benefits right now, or they may. But the biggest part is you want to make sure that you are protecting those much needed public benefits, whether they are receiving them right now, to the next, whether they are to receive them in the future. You want to look at the means tested benefits like supplemental security income, also known as SSI, and of course, Medicaid. Medicaid is the insurance that is associated with the means tested benefits and SSI. And of course, once they become adults, if they qualify for subsidized housing, that's another benefit that you want to protect as well. And then, of course, the other reason you want to plan is peace of mind. Every parent that I work with or that we work with, once they complete their estate plan, once they work with us to develop their third party trust, I get this. Whew, I am so glad this is done. Now we can breathe and now we can just enjoy our son or daughter because this part is done. Next slide. So it's okay, but why plan with an experienced professional? This is really interesting to me because there were people, famous people, that had assets that did not officially or plan ahead, or they did not work with an estate planning attorney. Warren Burger, Chief Justice, relied on do-it-yourself documents, and he left out key provisions for his loved one. Keith Ledger didn't update his will after the birth of his daughter, nor did he include his current wife when he passed away. And of course, we all know Prince. He had no will or estate plan, and his estate, estimated at around $300 million, it ended up closing in 2022, 6 years after he passed away. And then, of course, more recently, Aretha Franklin died in intestate, and they later found multiple handwritten wills that led to a lot of legal issues and challenges from her sons. So the bottom line, you can plan for your loved ones, or the state that you live in will, or the state that they live in will. Next slide. So let's review the benefits. And I'm going to breeze through this because I'm assuming that most of the parents on this call already understand the benefits that are available. But I'm going to talk about the cash benefits first. The cash benefits are SSDI if you are in the military survivor benefits, and then there's also railroad retirement benefits. All of those benefits are not means tested. And that simply means, I'm sorry for using the term in the definition, but that certainly that is based upon either a parent's work history before retirement, and it's not based upon the amount your loved one has at the time of need. So they don't, it's not means tested. They don't have to have a certain income, and they don't have to have assets below a certain amount to qualify for those benefits. And then the second cash benefit they possibly would qualify for is supplemental security income, which is SSI, and that is means tested. And again, in order to qualify for Social Security or supplemental Social Security income, you have to either be under a certain asset limit, a certain income limit, and then if your child is medically needy, sometimes even though they use your income, sometimes they will also qualify using because they are medically needy, and they definitely need the benefit. The nice thing about SSI is that if your child, son or daughter has a disability and they currently are not receiving SSI and they are under the age of 18, once they become 18, Social Security will no longer use your income as to determine eligibility for your son or daughter. They will use your son or daughter's income. Of course, most 18-year-olds that have disabilities, many of them are not employed. So, and even if they are, they will meet the income test. Next slide. So then we also have the insurance. Talked about Medicare. Medicare, again, is not means tested. SSI, Social Security, oftentimes other benefits that are not means tested, they will qualify for Medicare. But once they qualify for Medicare, it will take 2 years for them to actually receive that benefit. I'm not sure exactly why Social Security and CMS has that rule, but it is a rule that they have, and hopefully that will change at some point. But in the meantime, they may qualify for SSI in the interim. And then the other benefit for insurance is state Medicaid. Of course, that is means tested. Um, you don't have to, there is no Social Security or railroad retirement or military connection with with this state Medicaid. And then the last benefit is HUD housing. That is income tested. It's not asset tested. It's income tested. It's based upon the amount that you earn monthly. And they follow pretty much the same rules that SSI follows for distributions. But I just want to note that benefits dictate what and how disbursements are made from a special needs trust. Next slide. So what should the plan include? When you go to an attorney and you find a good estate planning attorney, they will help you review your assets. That includes your bank accounts, any equities, stocks, life insurance, property, retirement, all of that. They're going to help you look under all stones, all rocks, to make sure that they are including all of your assets as they develop your estate plan. They're going to help review all of the benefits that your son or daughter would be eligible for. They should include an ABLE account, because ABLE accounts can work or coincide and work in tandem with the special needs trust. And of course, they should talk to you about a special needs trust. Again, whether it is a standalone trust or it is a pooled special needs trust. Next slide. So this is, I want to include this so that you understand how this can all be. Back in 1993, Congress approved a statute. It's called the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1993. We call it OBRA 93 for short. And it allowed three exceptions to the general rule that a person's assets held in a trust are counted when determining eligibility for Medicaid or for SSI. There are, the first is a standalone S&T, a special needs trust. Again, that is where you hire the attorney. The attorney is going to draft your document, and you will have to find a person or an individual or entity that will serve as trustee of that S&T. There's also a disability income trust for retirement benefits. If you are retired and you find that you now have a disability, sometimes some states will allow you to, and this is for a self-funded trust, will allow you to transfer those benefits to then qualify into a special needs trust so that you can then qualify for Medicaid or other benefits. Most states don't allow this disability income trust. It's also called a Miller Trust, but I believe Maryland is considering approving those types of trusts. And then, of course, you have the pooled trusts. For us, it's the Wesley Venner Memorial Trust, which is the first party trust, and then the third party trust is the other pooled trust that we manage. Next slide. So you're probably thinking people can choose from three types of special needs trusts. You can just keep clicking. I've already talked about the fact that many times Miller trusts are not approved in states. But again, individual special needs trusts, I've already said this, hire an attorney, draft the document. And this is for a self-funded trust. Social Security and the Office of Attorney General's state Medicaid must approve a self-funded or a first-party trust, and then you have to find a trustee to manage it. Keep clicking, please. And then, of course, there's the pool trust. And I mentioned this already. It's already drafted by the attorney. It's been pre-approved by Social Security and the Office of Attorney General with the state for each jurisdiction that the pool trust serves. And only thing you have to do is complete and sign a joinder agreement to establish the account. And then the nonprofit serves as the trustee / manager of that account. The nice thing about establishing a third party trust is that you typically only have to provide payment to establish the trust. Once that is done, the trust sits dormant, or it's considered a shell trust until an event occurs and it is funded. So we have well over 30 third-party trusts that we have signed. They are sitting dormant because an event has not occurred, meaning that parents are still living, other people have not contributed to that third-party trust, so it sits dormant. And there are no additional fees as far as we are concerned in the way that we operate. There are no additional fees charged until that funding occurs. Next slide. I've already said that that can be either a self-funded or a third party. So you can keep clicking because I think I pretty much said this. It's a pooled, you have to be a pooled special needs trust to manage, a, you have to be a nonprofit to manage a pooled trust. It's important for you to understand that the trust is irrevocable, and that even though the accounts are pooled, the the responsibility of the trustee manager is that we must have separate accounts for each beneficiary. But Social Security and Medicaid and Congress allows us to pool the assets for investment purposes. For us, we just recently transitioned to TrueLink Financial. We are using their platform. They are serving as our fund advisor, and we are invested with Schwab um, um, at this point. And then accounts are established solely for the benefit of the person that has a disability. No one else can benefit from the funds that you put in the trust other than the beneficiary themselves. Now, there are times that we may pay for attendance. We may pay if your loved one wants to go on a vacation and they cannot go alone. We can then pay for attendance, whether it is a family member or whether it is a provider agency that's providing support services. So they actually benefit from it in those situations, but we understand that it is still for the sole benefit of the beneficiary, right? Because they could not go without that support. So in those situations, we actually can pay for airfare. We can pay for a hotel, but we cannot pay the person if they are with the provider agency to attend this vacation or attend the conference or classes if they're taking classes. And we can just skip because I don't want to confuse anyone talking too much about the self-funded trust. So the benefits of the pooled special needs trust is, again, you don't have to hire an attorney to draft the document. It is much less expensive to create. The trust is pre-approved, and the funds are pooled for investment purposes, which means that there's a bigger pot. We can purchase better products with greater returns. And remember, the only trust or the trust is only a small part. I'm going to say this a couple of times during the presentation because we get a lot of calls and a lot of parents that say to us, oh, don't worry about it. I already have our special needs trust established. And I ask them all the time, which is usually the first question I ask when they call, what estate planning attorney are you working with? Because you've got to work with that estate planning attorney first, and then you include the trust as part of that estate plan. Next slide. So how does it work? I already talked about the fact that funds are pooled for investment purposes only. The nonprofit or the trust or the manager will manage each individual account for each beneficiary. The beneficiary or their representative. And let me just talk briefly about what I mean by representative. This is not a legal term. This is our term. The representative is the person that serves as liaison between the beneficiary, your son or daughter or grandchild, and the trust. They're the person that will come to the table with us when we create the quality of life plan. They're the ones that will receive all of the statements. They're the ones that will make requests on behalf of the person with the disability. They are the ones that truly are going to have that close working relationship with the beneficiary. We are person-centered, but we also acknowledge that we are not going to be with your son or daughter every day. it is important for them to have a close representative that is going to understand their needs, understand how they live, understand um, what their health requires, help, and then they will also help us understand what we need to include in that estate plan and in the budget to ensure that we have funds available to make sure that they are able to enjoy their lives with as you as the parent would desire. Someone's asking the question, can the representative be a parent or guardian? Actually, yes, but keep in mind, most of the time, a third party trust, once you establish it, will not be funded until if you are funding it and it's part of your estate plan, an event occurs. And when I say event, you are no longer here. Now, you can establish a third party trust and perhaps, we always share this with our parents. Once they establish the trust, we will give you a letter that you will send everyone that loves your son or daughter or grandchild to let them know, hey, we know that you love our son, we know that you love our daughter, but if you plan to leave them any assets in your will, we ask that instead of leaving it directly to them, we ask that you leave it to the third party trust that we've established. Because if they leave it to them directly, they are going to potentially lose their SSI and their qualification or eligibility to continue to receive Medicaid. And we don't want that. That is the whole purpose of establishing the third party trust. So a representative can be, if the parents are alive, while and it's funded, it can be the parents, it can be siblings. If they're working with a provider agency, it can be a provider agency representative. It can be a family member that knows, it can be a cousin, it could be anyone that has knowledge of the beneficiary. So for us, because we are person centered, we manage using a team approach. For every request that comes across our desk, we're going to work closely with the representative and we're going to consider the following. We're going to look first at the benefits because the benefits that they currently have will dictate how we can make disbursements from the trust. Our goal is never to interrupt public benefits if at all possible. We're going to also look at the account balance. We're going to look at the beneficiary's budget and costs of whatever they are requesting. We're going to also take into consideration that we don't want to cause harm. You know, we live in Maryland and we live in DC. Cannabis is a big thing right now that's legal, and it's for recreational and medicinal. But there are some parents, a lot of parents, that include in their in their joinder agreement that I do not want the trust to pay for any cannabis or alcohol. And you can put that in your joinder agreement, and we will adhere to that. You tell us how you want or how you envision this trust working. And then we'll look at other resources if your request is something that we know another agency will cover or will take care of. And that we do that because we want to prolong or we want to extend the life of the trust as long as possible. And to answer that question, yes, you can have multiple representatives, but please keep in mind, if you're going to have multiple representatives, make sure they are all on the same page. A lot of times when you have siblings that are not on the same page, and you have two of them that you've listed as the representative, we tend to have to serve as uh, we have to be careful managing the two of them. And what we find is we end up spending more time managing the two representatives than we are spending time with the beneficiary. And we really don't want that. So, what parents typically do is they will name a representative and they will name someone. If that representative no longer wants the role, then they will name someone else. Exactly. You can have a primary and a secondary. That works well. But there are also other areas or other roles family members can play. One role is as the trust advisor. The trust advisor is a person that you name that is going to help us as the trustee and trust manager to make a decision if we're not quite sure that the request is a request we should honor or we should make a disbursement for. That trust advisor, we're going to reach out to them and we're going to say, hey, this request came before us. Can you help us walk? Can you walk through with us and help us make the decision as to whether this is something that your parents, if it's their sibling, or the grantors would like for us to pay? And then they can also serve, there's a role for a trust, if there's a trust advisor and oh my gosh, I'm blanking here, a trust advisor and a trust um, protector. Sorry for that. Trust protector is that person that is going to ensure that we are following your directives on how you envision this trust working. So they're going to have access to your estate plan, they're going to have access to your will, and they're going to have access to the joinder agreement. They're going to keep us on our toes to make sure that we are adhering to your wishes. Now, I know someone's probably thinking this. Can one person serve in both roles? Yes, they can. Next slide. So, oh, I got ahead of myself and we've already done this. So, this gives you a little more information about the representative, the trust advisor, and the trust protector that I've just talked about. Next slide. So disbursement rules, and there's nothing basic about it.
Real
You
quick, I
know,
don't think we can see the slides anymore.
oh, okay.
Unless,
Margie.
I can see them.
okay, then it must be a glitch on my side. Okay.
So the disbursement rules are very simple, and this is why a lot of parents want a professional trustee to manage the accounts, because you have to really understand whoever is serving as the trustee. You have to understand the rules and how disbursements can be made based upon the benefits that they are receiving. So the first is if you have SSI is supposed to cover basic needs, meaning that they're supposed to cover your your rent if you're paying rent. They're supposed to cover your utilities if you are living in an apartment or a home. But and if the trust makes a disbursement for any of those things, then it can cause a 1/3 reduction in their SSI payment in the month that that disbursement is made. So food is excluded, and that's a nice thing. So the trust can pay for food without jeopardizing or imposing that 1/3 reduction. But a lot of times, siblings or other family members may not understand those rules. And because they're making disbursements that are not allowed by that particular benefit, they can cause a reduction or termination of the benefits. So, and if they make a disbursement, a cash disbursement from the trust, SSI is going to reduce their SSI payment dollar for dollar after the first $20. So we have other means of making disbursements from the trust. Most or every pool trust will either pay an invoice direct. So if they have dental work, if they are going to a doctor, if they have a care manager, they will bill the trust directly, and then the trust will pay that particular invoice. The other way is we work with TrueLink, and TrueLink has a TrueLink debit card that we can actually upload funds onto that card. And the representative, or if your loved one is able to make decisions and engage with us on their own, then they will have that card and they can use that card for basic or for day to day basic expenditures. Part of the quality of life plan that my team members will do and creating a budget as a result of that quality of life plan, they will determine how much monthly will go on that card for the beneficiary. But what is important for parents and their network to understand is that because as trustee, we have a fiduciary responsibility to for every dollar, every every fund that comes in and goes out, we are still responsible for it, even though we are putting it on the card. So it is important for them to make sure that they can are able to keep receipts, provide us with those receipts. The nice part about being with TrueLink now is that they can log in, they can upload their receipts real time so that they don't have to keep paper. And that's key, and it's a big game changer for our beneficiaries because it's difficult for me to keep all of my receipts and have them ready for me to review them. I have to do it real time. So that's really key. Um, and for Medicaid, we cannot supplant that benefit. We can't pay for things that Medicaid is intended to cover, but we can supplement what Medicaid covers. I have a I have a nephew that has special needs, and he uses a chair that for his posture. And I don't know whether Medicaid covers all of the chair, but we can certainly supplant whatever Medicaid doesn't cover. And that goes with, like, we have a lot of beneficiaries that have extensive or need extensive dental work. Unless they are on the waiver, oftentimes Medicaid will not cover those additional expenses. So we can supplement that, but we can't supplant it. So Medicaid has to pay for whatever they're going to pay, and then we can supplement from that point on. And then subsidized housing. Whenever the trust makes regular payments for utility services like internet or cable, then subsidized housing or HUD may count that as income. And and that may increase the beneficiary's monthly rent rate, that the formula that they use. So remember, the important thing is that whomever the trustee is, whether it is a family member, if you choose to go with a standalone trust, or you work with the trustee through a pooled special needs trust, the trustee has discretion. No one can force the trustee to pay for goods and services. But that's why we incorporate what we call the quality of life plan, because that is an opportunity to bring everyone that is supporting that beneficiary to the table so that we can all come together and create that quality of life plan so that we as the trustee can then create a budget based upon what was discussed at that meeting. And all of the things that we've talked about or I've talked about so far, it's a living document. So we can make sure that life happens. We all know that life happens and it can happen very quickly. So we recognize that whenever there's a change, whenever there's an adjustment needed, all we're asking is folks to come to the table and allow us to review what needs to change so that we can make that adjustment to the plan and to the budget. Next slide. And this is my last slide. Oh, wow. Thank you. This is so I see that this is what a lot of parents really want to see. They want the side by side, and because we really say to parents, you don't just need to work with an estate planning attorney. You don't just need to establish a special needs trust. You also really need to have an ABLE account. And Betty Ann is going to talk about details of the ABLE account. But this is a side by side that has been helpful to a lot of parents so that you see the difference between the two accounts for the special needs trust. And I'm not going to go into all of it. And I apologize. When I sent this slide to Margie, I did change the ABLE annual amount 20,000, but I did not change it on the bottom. So I appreciate that. So on the bottom where it says many families will use both account types when developing their estate plan. And it's important for this because for you to understand because ABLE funds can pay for some things that a special needs trust cannot. And the ABLE, when they pay for it or use ABLE funds, it will not reduce their SSI. And Betty Ann is going to talk about more about what some of those things are. And then the larger amounts can be deposited into the special needs trust. Also, the special needs trust can feed or transfer funds into an ABLE account. Most of the people that we have and that we work with that have ABLE accounts, we are doing quarterly deposits into their ABLE account. And this is where I forgot to update it. So it's actually 20,000 annual for per year for the ABLE account. Again, this is best of both worlds. You can have a S&T or a pooled special needs trust and an ABLE account, and they work to enhance the person's quality of life. That's what this is all about. We want to make sure that people that have disabilities have an opportunity to have an enhanced quality life because the benefits that they're receiving monthly from whether it's SSI or SSDI, it covers basic living expenses. It doesn't cover those things that you and I may take for granted. It doesn't cover being able to go on a vacation. It doesn't cover if they are driving a vehicle. You know, there's just not enough money to cover all of those incidentals and all of those larger purchases that we all take for granted. So I know that there are a lot of questions, and I'm not sure how they're going to handle the questions, whether they're going to handle the questions after the ABLE account is presented. But that's it for me. Here's my information. And yes, I believe they are going to share the slides. And of course, you can always call me. You can call our organization. You can also visit our website. But I'm happy to talk to anyone and provide more detailed information about how the special needs trust can benefit you and your family.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Yolanda. So I think because we have so many questions, we're just going to go with the questions now. So that way we don't, because I know there'll be different questions after the ABLE account. So let's start with. So the first question we have was, what is the ROI on your investment pool?
So the return on investments. It varies. Right now, we're doing pretty good. So we have three opportunities or free investment models, and they each have a different rate of return. But right now, it's been averaging anywhere from 5 to 8%.
Okay, great. Is HUD at age 18 based in the disabled um, person income or the household income?
Before the age of 18, uh, it is it is based upon the parent's income, unless they are significantly medically needy. And then I don't know the formula that they use to determine that. But once your son or daughter is 18, keep in mind that they're only going to use their income, and obviously their income is not going to be significant. But also, I just want to remind parents, once your son or daughter reaches 18, you are no longer automatically their guardian. So if they need that, then you're going to have to um, talk to an attorney or decide how you're going to handle that.
Okay, thank you. Is pool trust deposits insured?
Just like banks, up to I think it's $250,000, just like
O-
with the bank.
Okay, great. Can any financial advisor create a pooled trust?
It depends upon whether your estate planning attorney or your advisor. Say the question again because I think I misheard.
Okay, can any financial advisor create a pooled trust?
So it's you have to ask the advisor whether they are an attorney to draft the trust. Most advisors have a group of attorneys that they work with. They also will reach out to us if they feel that a pooled special needs trust is the best option for the family.
Okay, great. Next question. So once you set up a trust with X amount of dollars, can you then make monthly deposits into that account?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. Are pooled third-party trusts risk-free?
Nothing is risk free. Anytime you invest in the stock market or invest in equities, there's a risk. But the way that we are working with our fund advisor is that they try to mitigate risk as much as possible. We can't control the market, but we hire people that will monitor the market so that they can make adjustments accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Which state federal regulatory body oversees the pool trust to ensure that there is no fraudulent activity?
So remember, we are a nonprofit organization, so there are a lot of layers. The first layer is we have a board of directors that is over the nonprofit. Within the board of directors, we have a finance committee that reviews finances on a monthly basis. Then we also have Social Security and Medicaid that can come in and audit the trust at any time. We are moving towards audits on a off year, every other year for the trust. And we also have the IRS that's providing, that we have to provide the 1041 or the tax return for the trust. So there are lots of entities that are providing oversight for the special needs trust.
Okay, thank you. Can there be multiple representatives, making them like primary and secondary?
For the representative,
Um, I'm not exactly sure. So if you ask that question, if you can clarify in the chat. All right, we'll go with the next question if someone wants to clarify that. Okay, what are the downsides of pooled trusts?
most people say the downside of a pool trust is that the investment portion, because there's usually one investment model. So if you have $1 million, before we had one asset allocation model. And they said that's a down part, because if you have $1 million and you have a son or daughter who is only 18, they're anticipated to have a long life. So you would want to have more of a assertive model for their investment. That's the downside. But we've actually responded to that by offering, right now, we're looking at three different allocation models, that parents can choose from, within the trust. And we are actually thinking about adding a fourth, for a more assertive, um, model.
Okay. Do you help parents, guardians identify a suitable representative, trust advisor, trust protector? What if you don't have any personal friends or families who can fill these roles?
So the question that I would then ask is, what is your plan when you are either incapacitated or you are no longer here? And if you have a plan for that, then that's who we're going to work with, because that's who's going to be responsible for your son or daughter down the road. Now, we can't really identify those folks because we really don't know what your needs are, what your son or daughter's needs will be. But what we can do is, we can work with provider agencies. We can work with DDA. Hopefully, they will be part of the DDA service coordination. So they're not going to be on their own. They're going to be with a governmental agency that will provide oversight to ensure that their care is consistent and they are taken care of. So we will
Okay.
work with DDA or DDS.
All right. Thank you. Are the disbursement rules the same for SSI and SSDI?
Slightly different, because SSI says that we cannot give cash without jeopardizing their SSI. And SSI says that we cannot pay for food. I mean, I'm sorry, we can't pay for food, for, rent. But if they have SSDI, because it's not means tested, we can pay a person's rent. We can give them cash, limited cash. We can pay for their utilities if they're living in an apartment on their own. So yes, the disbursement rules are different depending upon the benefits received.
Okay, thank you. What if you receive food stamps as a SNAP?
As a family or as a person that's receiving or is the beneficiary of the trust. Um, then SNAP benefits, if the person is the beneficiary, then we handle that just like all the other benefits. They will continue to receive their SNAP benefits, and we will take that into consideration when, making disbursements from the trust. And we will often ask, because SNAP benefits for many of our beneficiaries who are adults, it's just not enough money for them to cover all of their needs, their grocery needs. So we offset that, we supplement that.
Okay, thank you. Can we control investment portfolios? For example, we don't want to fund weapons manufacturers or oil companies.
So we don't fund weapons, we don't fund anything like that. You cannot, and that's the other downside of using a pooled special needs trust, because we have a portfolio of investments that we use. And we depend upon because we do have an investment policy that our fund advisor will use. And we've outlined how we want them to invest and in what we want them to invest. So, given that, the short of the answer is no, you can't control it, but you can if you have a standalone trust.
Okay, thank you. Also, what protections are in place in case of banking societal collapse in light of current events?
That's why it's important for us to work with a fund advisor that has that experience, that will work closely with us when they're looking at a downturn. So the idea of a pooled investment is that you don't have everything in one type of pot. You diversify so that when the market is doing well, then you're going to have a great return. When it's not doing so well, the other allocations, like the treasuries, the bonds, some of the mutual funds, are going to offset that, because they when the market is doing poorly, those will offset the losses that they may experience.
Okay, thank you. Okay, will the representative be paid out of the special needs trust for their time?
We've not experienced that yet. Um, Usually, the representative, if they're a provider agency, we do not pay the provider agency. If it is a family member, we typically have not even had that question asked, to pay if we could pay the representative. So, to answer your question, we've not come across that yet.
Okay. Okay, so if there's no Medicaid, so this might be an able question if it is, but if there's no Medicaid payback after death, what happens to the money in able?
That is for Able.
Okay, so we'll
I'll
we'll
leave
leave
that
that
to
um for
Betty Ann.
afterwards, and then next, let's see, we have a few more questions. Okay, can a family have both first parties trust and a partial pool trust?
They, I'm assuming they meant third party trusts. So, great question. Anyone on the call who is a veteran and you are working on your estate planning attorney needs to know that you are a veteran or that you are military, because you will need two. You will need both a first party trust for your military benefits, and you will need a third party trust for your estate. Military benefits cannot go roll into a third party trust. It is a self funded. It is a benefit for the beneficiary, and it cannot go into a third party trust. So yes, you will need both.
Okay, thank you. What fees does Horizon charge?
There's a one-time enrollment fee of $1,500 to establish the account, and as I said, the account is actually funded, there are no fees until funding occurs. And I can't go through the list of fees, but whoever asked the question, please send me an email and I'm happy to share our fee schedule with you.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, we're gonna switch to the ABLE presentation, and then if we have some time, we'll answer the few questions. So thank you so much, Yolanda.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. And Betty Ann?
Hi, how are you tonight? It's so good to be here. Thanks, Yolanda, for all that great information and talking about how trust interact with ABLE accounts. So I'm going to carry that on, and let's go to the next slide. I hope that most of you have heard about Maryland ABLE, but there's always people that we meet every day that say, "What is ABLE?" And Maryland ABLE is the program in Maryland that establishes the opportunity for people with disabilities to have accounts to finally be able to save and invest money and not jeopardize those state or federal benefits like SSI and Medicaid, waiver services, HUD, SNAP, all those kind of benefits that people have. It's a program that was started by a law and acted back in 2014, and we're governed by the IRS. We interact very closely with Social Security, specifically related to those SSI or supplemental security income that Yolanda spoke about. And I'll tell you more about that. Our program here in Maryland, we actually opened back in November of 2017. So we just celebrated our 8-year anniversary. And as of today, we have over 8,875 accounts. And those folks are currently saving over $145.1 million in these accounts. If you can imagine, that money would have typically been spent in a spend down situation or having to spend it so as not to lose benefits in the past. And now they're able to save and invest it. In fact, in the state of Maryland, in our program, their average account balance is over $16,000 per account, which is just amazing and just makes me feel so good about what we've been able to do as we look at our program. Let's go to the next slide, please. Why is it important to open an ABLE account? Because as I said, you get to save money or invest money as a person with a disability without worrying about losing those federal means tested benefits. And I saw someone even ask that question, what is means tested? Means tested means it's based on the amount of money or assets that a person has. And many programs that help people with disabilities say you can only have so much money or so many dollars in your assets that you hold before you're no longer eligible for those benefits. If you're a person who is currently receiving those SSI benefits, and again, SSI, not SSDI, you have a $2,000 limit at any given month end. If you have more than $2,000 outside of an ABLE account or in a trust account, that can begin to reduce your monthly benefit that you receive. If you begin to deposit money into an ABLE account, that is going to change for you. We're going to raise that threshold. We're actually going to raise it from $2,000 to $100,000 related to those SSI cash benefits. Another really amazing thing that I find is that when you put money in these accounts and as they earn interest or dividends, there's no taxes that are paid while the money's in the account earning, and there's no taxes paid when the money comes out of the account on the money from the ABLE account, as long as you spend it on what are considered to be qualified disability expenses. And before somebody quickly writes that question, hold on, because I am going to explain what qualified disability expenses are. There's another special benefit for having a Maryland account. Now, I want to say to you, I'm here representing Maryland ABLE, as I am the director of Maryland ABLE, but I also serve on the board for our national association. And so there are actually 46 programs in the District of Columbia who have ABLE programs. We want to make sure that people know about these. In Maryland, we accept enrollment from anyone across the country. However, if you're living in another state, maybe Virginia or in the District of Columbia, you want to take a look at, are there any tax benefits for having an in-state account and being a state taxpayer in those states? So I want to make sure people understand that, because the state income subtraction in Maryland is for Maryland residents who pay Maryland income tax. So as an example, I have the ability to deduct from my income when I file my state taxes up to $2,500 per ABLE account that I have contributed to. Now, I have to contribute $2,500 to deduct it. So if I only contribute 50, I get to deduct 50, and that's per year. We have worked really hard to make ABLE accounts easy. It's a process that can be done online. It doesn't have to involve paper, although we have a paper process if you prefer that. And the enrollment online takes about 15 or 20 minutes, and you're in, you have an account. So it's a really simple process. And I'm happy to tell you that our program manager has made it available in 22 different languages. So if you're here on this call and you're someone who is speaking Spanish, it is available in Spanish, along with 21 other languages. And the other thing about an ABLE account that is really nice is it's very easy to access. It's like 24/7 banking. Anytime you have a phone or a device, a computer, you can log on and do withdrawals for your money or make deposits on your money. Next slide, please. So who can have an ABLE account? Well, we were very excited because on January 1st, what was called the ABLE Age Adjustment Act went into effect. And so now the only qualifications for to be eligible for an ABLE account are that the disability has to have occurred before the 46th birthday. That's increased from 26. And it doesn't mean you have to be younger than 46. It just means that the disability had to start before the age of 46, because here in Maryland, we have account holders who haven't even reached their first birthday, and we have account holders who are in their 90s. The other part of this definition says that you have to show that you meet the Social Security definition of disability by either having been found eligible for SSI or for SSDI. Doesn't mean you have to be receiving cash benefits, just means that you're eligible. And Yolanda talked about this in terms of children under the age of 18 oftentimes may not be receiving an SSI cash benefit because of the fact that they're using parental income to make that determination. But once the child turns 18 and it becomes their income as the test, they then are qualified. So it's really about the disability being a qualified disability with Social Security. If someone doesn't have a diagnosis that is a qualifying disability, or hasn't had that diagnosis established, they can get what we call a disability certification. And it's a letter that you can take to a licensed physician, and they sign off that you meet that Social Security level of disability. We have on our website a sample letter that you can use if you want to take that with you. Next slide, please. I see the question about deposits. Hang on, we're going to get there. So who owns the ABLE account? Now, this is very different. Yolanda has talked to you about a trust and a trustee. In terms of an ABLE account, the ABLE account is always owned, and we say operated, by the person with a disability. Now, fully understanding that some people with disabilities may need some assistance to manage their account. And so there's the opportunity to select someone to assist them. And if the person isn't able to make that selection, we're going to talk about a level that has been defined within the tax code of relationships that can help to manage that account. We do assume that if a child is under the age of 18, a parent or legal guardian is able to manage this account for that person. A really important thing to remember about ABLE accounts is you can only have one ABLE account per beneficiary. So each person who has an ABLE account can only have one ABLE account at one time. Next slide, please. This slide is going to share with you what the IRS expanded who could help to manage an account to be. So again, if the person with the disability is able to say, I want you, Betty Ann, to be my manager, then I can manage that account, and I would select that I'm managing it for the person by their authority when we're opening the account. However, if the person doesn't have the ability to do that, we look at this list, and this is really a list in order of priority. So the first thing is, are you an agent under power of attorney for at least to monitor or manage the ABLE account? And remember, power of attorney is executed by the person giving permission. The second piece is, are you a conservator or legal guardian? In the state of Maryland, we have different types of guardianship. We have guardianship of person, guardianship of property, and full guardianship. In this case, for ABLE accounts, it needs to at least include guardianship of property, because that's what this is about. If the person who owns the account has a spouse, they would be next on the list, followed by a parent, a sibling or a step sibling, a grandparent of the individual, and lastly, we have or a representative payee appointed by the Social Security Administration. So if your only relationship to this person with an ABLE account is representative payee, you will, at the time of enrollment or signing on to help manage, have to self-attest. You'll have to check a box that says, no one higher on this list is willing or able to serve as that manager. Okay, next slide, please. We have a new feature that has just expanded who can help manage these accounts. So let's say that I have an account and my sister Beverly is my authorized representative managing my account. But I want my other sibling to be able to go in and make deposits or help me to change when my address changes. I don't want it all to be on my sister Beverly. I have the opportunity, and Beverly, who is my manager, to say who else can help with my account. So it can be um, a custom view where you can only view it. That's all you can have. Or you could take and look at the permission to make deposits. Okay. We have scalable for people. We have many people who have accounts that are managed by organizations. And so in an organization, there may be a situation where the person who is on the day-to-day managing needs to have maybe a residential staff manager or someone also be able to view that account so that they know whether the person has money for things that they're wanting to do with this money. It's really something that we monitor, and it is something it says here, every action taken is tracked with an audit trail, linking the changes to the specific user. So we would always know who is making any sort of transaction or change in the account. Next slide, please. Let's talk about money to the account, contributions. Okay, next slide. This has a lot of numbers on it, but I want you to understand when you open an ABLE account, it only requires a $25 initial deposit to open the account. That account is the first $25 that the account owner or manager is choosing to invest or put in a cash savings account. After that, any subsequent contribution, and that can happen as frequently or as infrequently as you wish, has to be at least $5, no more than $5. As Yolanda spoke to earlier, we have a contribution limit for ABLE. And I'm happy to say that this limit has steadily increased. When we opened our program in 2017, it was $14,000. We are now at $20,000. So that means you can have up to $20,000 contributed to this account each calendar year. This is why it's so important that you think about the information that Yolanda has shared with you earlier, because if someone does get an inheritance or has a settlement, there might be a lot of money, and ABLE can only accept $20,000 a year. And so you need another avenue to protect those assets to maintain those benefits. Now, there is a secondary piece for ABLE, and that is for people who are working. For people who are working and who are not currently contributing to a retirement program for themselves, nor is their employer contributing, they can contribute up to $15,650 this year above that $20,000. The reason it says up to, because that's the maximum additional amount you can contribute, but the actual amount you contribute is equal to your earnings for the year. So if you don't make more than $10,000 that year, you can only contribute an additional $10,000. And if you make $30,000 this year, you can only contribute an additional $15,650. Clear as mud? Okay. If there's questions, I'll get them at the end. This $100,000 is only affecting the SSI cash benefits. That threshold doesn't affect SNAP or HUD or SSDI or Medicaid or anything else. What happens is Social Security and the IRS, federal government, have given the opportunity for people with disabilities receiving that SSI benefit to go from $2,000 cap in assets to $102,000. So we have agreements with Social Security. It's a requirement of our program that every month, at the end of the month, we upload the balances to the Social Security Administration. And once the account reaches $100,000, what happens is the cash benefits are suspended with Social Security. The benefit of this is it doesn't go away Applying for Social Security benefits is horrendous. It's a challenging process. We know that. And if you didn't have an ABLE account and you lost your SSI benefits because of your assets over 2000, you could only be in a suspended state for up to 12 months, and then you would be disenrolled. With ABLE, you're never disenrolled. When your balance goes below 100,000, those benefits are reinstated at that cash level they were prior to reaching that threshold. And the most important thing is, because you never lose your SSI eligibility and you're on that suspended roll, you do not lose your Medicaid. And that is such a critical piece. In the state of Maryland, we have a threshold, which is $500,000. And that is actually the same as our college savings program. So that's where that number comes from. And it says when your account reaches $500,000, we can no longer accept contributions to your account. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't continue to earn and grow through dividends and interest. It just means that until that balance came below 500,000, we wouldn't be able to accept additional contributions. It's really important for people to understand that these thresholds are there only for when you meet or exceed them, but when you go back below them, you can begin to put money back in and the suspension of SSI benefits is removed. I can't wait till somebody reaches 500,000. And I'm excited to tell you, we currently have 33 account holders who have exceeded $100,000 in savings. That's just so exciting. It says here contributions can be made via check, automatic deposit, or electronic transfer. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you can get money into the account in just a moment. If you go to the next slide, I've really described this Able to Work Act, but I want to let you know that if somebody is in a situation where they get unemployment benefits, they can be deposited as part of that standard contribution or part of that Able to Work contribution. The only thing that it can't be used to do is calculate that income for the year. So it's not counted towards their gross income for the current year, but it can be deposited into the account under either Able to Work because it's the person's money or under the standard contribution. Okay, next slide, please. There's another provision in the ABLE Planning Act, and that is about people who may have had college savings plans or had family members who had college savings plans, and they didn't spend all the money in those college savings plans. Or in the case of a person with a disability, they may have realized that they can't use the money in the way that 529 college accounts are restricted. So there is the opportunity to roll over the money from college savings for a person who had that account themselves and has an ABLE account, or a family member as defined by college savings who had an account and wants to roll it into the beneficiary of the ABLE account's personal account. Now, when these rollovers occur, we have to be cognizant or aware of that $2,000 standard contribution limit for the year. So if there were $15,000 in the college savings account, and we hadn't made any more than $5,000 in contributions this year, we could roll the whole $15,000 over. But if we had already made $10,000 in contributions to the ABLE account this year, we couldn't roll that full 15 over this year. We could only roll a maximum of 10,000 over to equal that 20,000. And next year we can roll that additional 5,000 in. Okay? Next slide, please. With ABLE, we have several investment and savings options, and I'm happy to say that we're currently in the process of planning to expand these options because we recognize that with this new demographic, people whose disabilities occurred between the ages of 26 and 46, there may be different reasons for having an ABLE account. So currently the options are to put it in what we call our cash option, and that is an FDIC insured interest-bearing bank account, similar to a savings account. So insured, as Yolanda indicated, up to $250,000. Then we have these 4 different types of investment options. Our investment options are all offered through Vanguard. So they're conservative options underlying, but we have a fixed income, which is a low risk like cash, which is 100% bonds. We have a conservative option, which is 20% bonds, 20% stocks, and 80% bonds. We have a moderate, which is a 50-50 split. And then we have what we call the aggressive. That is 84% stocks and 16% bonds. People always say, why those numbers? That's how it worked out. And we didn't want to put people fully at risk by doing 100% stock. So those underlying investments are offered by Vanguard and are spelled out in our program disclosure booklet, which is located on our website. Next slide, please. People sometimes get nervous when they're enrolling and they come to the screen where they're going to put money in and it asks them, where do you want this money to go? Which of those options? And they have this momentary paralysis, like, I'm not sure where I want to put it. Don't worry, put it anywhere, because at any time you can add additional places that you want it to go. The only thing that we have to be aware of is that the Securities and Exchange Commission says people who have accounts, they can only change investment options up to 2 times a year. And that change means if you had money in the moderate investment option and you said, I don't want to be in moderate anymore, I want to move all of my money from moderate over to cash, that's considered a change of direction. It's not considered a change of direction if you only put cash at first, and the next time you're like, I'm going to put $10 in cash and $50 in fixed, and I'm going to put $50 in aggressive. That's not considered a change in direction. It's only when you have money in one of those investment portfolios and you want to zero it out and move it all over to others, okay? It's really nice because now every time you make a deposit, you can decide how much of your deposit you want to go in which option. What we're going to be expanding to and adding to this list is what we call time horizon kinds of investment options. If you've ever had a college savings fund, you're familiar with that. And that might be where you have a specific savings goal and you're saying to yourself, I think it's going to take me some time to save for that adapted vehicle or to buy a house. So that's a portfolio that's designed to adjust the market to help you meet your goals in the time span that you select. So stay tuned. That will be coming in the second half of this year. When you put your money in, you can direct where it goes. And when you take your money out, you get to decide which of those accounts you want to take it out of, which of those investment options or cash. Next slide, please. In terms of fees for this account, I told you the first $25 is yours. It is part of your first initial savings and investment in your account. There is a $35 annual account maintenance fee. That is our program manager who maintains the website, who operates the back end of the computer system, who makes it available to you to have 24/7 access to your account. When you say you want to deposit $50 in the aggressive option, they're the ones who take and make the stock purchases for you so that you own those shares. This $35 annual fee is broken down quarterly and withdrawn from the account on a quarterly basis in the amount of $8.75. However, it's prorated. So if you didn't join until today, you wouldn't pay the full $8.75 for this quarter. You would only pay since your account started. There are also what we call asset-based fees on the investment options, and they're similar to anyone who's got any stocks. You're paying an asset-based fee. I'm very happy to tell you that in the ABLE program, nationwide and specifically in Maryland, we have focused on offering investment options that have very low asset-based fees. If you again look at our program disclosure statement, you will see what they are for each one of those portfolios. Next slide, please. So who can put this money in? Just about anybody can put this money in. It can come from the account holder, the beneficiary, the person with the disability. Those are all the same person, right? A family member, friends, employers. It can be from earned income. It can be unemployment funds. It could be, and was for a very strong period of time when the economic stimulus checks were coming out, people were wanting these accounts to protect that money and have that money. It can also hold, again, up to that standard contribution limit, benefit back payments, which sometimes cause a challenge for folks who are getting a back payment from Social Security. As I said, you can roll money over from a college savings plan. It can take a small settlement or small inheritances. Next slide, please. So I got that money in there. How the heck do I get it out? Well, when you enroll, that account gets linked typically to an outside bank account, and you move money electronically from that account to the ABLE account, or from the ABLE account to that account when you want to spend it. That's one option. We also, I'm going to tell you in a minute about a gifting option for all those other people that I talked about. And we do have some direct deposits that I'll mention too. You just log in and make those contributions or withdraw online. Again, anytime you have access to an electronic device, you will be able to access your account. You can request paper checks. And when you make paper checks request, there is a $2.50 charge for that to send it to somebody other than you. So that is something. And we have a prepaid card option. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because it's a TrueLink card, just like Yolanda described for the trusts. So let's move to the next slide, please. Now we're going to come to the burning question. What can I use an ABLE account for? So let's take a look at the next slide. The IRS regulations governing ABLE say that an ABLE account can be used for anything that supports the person with a disability in health, independence, and quality of life. That is so broad and wide. And so it really comes down to who is this person who has the ABLE account? They listed some example categories, and it's really important that you understand this is not a limited list. This is just some examples. And let me give you some insights into some of these categories. When we talk about health prevention and wellness, we can think about, oh, it's doctor copays or medications, but it might be the gym membership that keeps you well. It may be massage therapy or acupuncture that helps you, that could be paid for. When we talk about education, it doesn't mean going to college. It might mean something as simple as taking a class at Michael's and learning a new skill, or through the rec council, or going to camp and learning some new things. We talk about employment training and support. And just as Yolanda talked about for special needs trusts, we're not able to pay for things that are paid for by other funding sources from the ABLE account. But if you need additional supports that are not funded, you can use this money to pay for those supports. When we say transportation, we are talking trains, planes, automobiles, cruise ships, whatever you can think of to get you from place to place, including Uber, Lyft, those kind of things. All of those basic living expenses, your heat, your cable, all of those kinds of things, your food, your trash collection, any of that. Assistive technology and personal support services, sometimes people don't consider those phones to be that kind of thing. And just as Yolanda mentioned that a trust can pay for to go on vacation, and if you needed support for that person to go on vacation with you, we can support that person's expenses. And that's the only situation in which an ABLE account can actually pay for other people. Other than that, it must be for the person with the disability. When we talk about financial management, administrative and legal services, somebody said, can you use the ABLE account to pay the fees to set up a special needs trust? And the answer to that is yes. Or to pay the lawyer who's going to assist you, or the financial planner. Yes, it can be used for that, as long as it is for that person. One of the biggest things that we say to people, and traditionally, I've worked in the field for 45 years, I know a lot of times people with disabilities, in trying to get their money down below those asset thresholds, they would do prepaid burial and funeral plans. With an ABLE account, you don't have to, because even after the person passes, you can still have that account used to pay for funeral and burial expenses, as well as any outstanding bills for that person when they were alive. What happens when the person dies is the account is stopped for accepting any further contributions or deposits, but it isn't stopped for making withdrawals from the manager of the account or the who might be a successor beneficiary. Now, if you'll notice, I skipped housing, rent, and mortgage. You might thought, she's just getting old. She missed it. Not the case. Housing, rent, and mortgage are the only one of the expenses that you can use the money in an ABLE account to pay that has a special rule. The special rule is if you're going to use money from the ABLE account to pay for this, and you're moving it into your linked bank account, you must pay that bill in the same month that you withdrew it from the ABLE account. Let me say that again. If you withdraw money from your ABLE account and transfer that into your linked account to pay for rent or mortgage, you must pay that bill before the end of the calendar month, or it will be considered a part of that asset limit of $2,000 outside of ABLE. Okay. Now, some things about these expenses. We, as the Maryland ABLE program, do not get involved in how you spend this money, how this person who owns this account, and if they have someone helping them manage it, choose to spend this money. That is on the account owner and the person who's helping them. There is no approval needed from our program in order to do this. You do need to keep your receipts. And as Yolanda indicated, if you're using the TrueLink card, you can upload those receipts to the TrueLink website to keep them. How long do you keep them? For the same time that you would keep receipts for a tax audit, because the only audit to these accounts, the true audit to these accounts, would be if the account owner was selected for an IRS tax audit. And we have not nationally, in the 10 years that ABLE has been in place across the country, had any account holders selected for a tax audit. I think they know there are bigger fish to fry out there, and they're not auditing these accounts. But I need to tell you that someday that could happen. Next slide, please. I want to share with you some of the features that help maximize an ABLE account. So let's go to the next slide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but again, this ABLE card is a Visa card. It says Visa debit, but it's not a debit card in that you can't use it at an ATM and you cannot use it to get cash back. But it allows you to go any place that Visa is accepted and use this card. And you decide how much you want on the card. You can have up to $20,000 balance on that card. And you can transfer as much as $5,000 a day to that card based on the limits that TrueLink has. But it is available for the person to have immediate access to their funds. So if someone's going out to the movies or to dinner or to a show, they have a card to purchase those things. And that's part of the opportunity for learning. I have permission from one of the ladies who works with me, as well as her daughter, who will be 22 on Saturday. And I can't believe you guys don't know it, because she usually sends out a blast to everybody in the world that it's her birthday. And Lily has an account and has a card. And I am a friend of Lily's, and we would go to lunch periodically. And before she had her ABLE account, I would pay for us to go to lunch. And one of the proudest moments I had for Lily was we had gone to lunch one day and she had her ABLE card with her TrueLink card. And when the waitress took our orders, she said, "Separate checks, please." The empowerment for her to know that she could do the same thing I had been doing all along and paying that bill was so amazing. It's also helped Lily to be able to look online and see how much she's spending on things and what she's doing with her money, and to be able to say, maybe I shouldn't buy this because I'm getting low and I don't want to put any more money on right now. Currently, you have to request the Able TrueLink card. It's not automatic when you open an account. And if you have a TrueLink card and you activate it, it does cost $1.25 a month to have the card, whether you don't use it all month or you use it 100 times in the month. It doesn't matter. It's just a straight $1.25. And it's not a bill you have to pay because it's deducted from the balance on the card. Next slide, please. Some of those features, you can load money on the card right from your Able account, and you get to customize your spending permissions. You can set restrictions to help yourself if you want. You can restrict international purchases or certain merchant categories if you don't want to have the card be able to be used in those places. I would say to you, if you're not the guardian of someone, and in any case, we would encourage you to involve the person, but if you're not the guardian of someone, putting those kinds of restrictions in place is something you need to really consider about. Is it for the person or is it for you? So be careful in setting those restrictions. It is your decision. We have nothing to say about that. But in advocating for the rights of people with disabilities, I want to say that. You can order a card for the account owner or beneficiary, as well as for the person who's managing the card. So you can have more than one card for an account. You can set some alerts so that it alerts you when there is activity on the card, just like I have my bank do. And for me, I have it over a certain threshold that it tells me, oh, you didn't use the card, wasn't used, but this was charged to your account. Was it you? And when you log on to the Able account, you can manage that card. Next slide, please. We have some automatic saving options with Maryland Able. And one of the things that we have is called Weather Booster. I think this is so creative. And I really wish I had this for my personal retirement account, because it's a way to have money put into your account without ever having to think about it. So you can set it up to automatically transfer from your linked bank account as little as $1 or as much as you want. And that occurs every time there's a prediction 50% or more for precipitation in your zip code. So truly, you're adding money to your savings, your account, every time that it's going to rain or snow or sleet or hail. Any kind of precipitation at least a 50% projection will automatically make that contribution. Again, an option. It's not something that you have to do. It's an option. Next slide, please. I talked about gifting, and this is something we've enhanced in the time that we've opened our accounts. You can customize your page as an account owner with a yearly gifting limit. You can say, I don't want to receive more than $5,000 in gifts because I know I have to move a certain amount of money that I'm not spending every month into this account to stay under my assets outside of this account. But you don't have to set a limit. And you can share your link through an email and invite family and friends, or text message them or messenger them. The link doesn't give them your account number. It just gives them a link to be able to make a contribution to your account. And now, as a person who gives those gifts, I do that routinely to about 4 different people who are friends of mine who have Able accounts. I can set it up to do it reoccurring. Like, I didn't even have to remember that Lily's birthday's on Saturday. She's automatically getting a deposit to her Able account from me. And I get an email that says, you have contributed $25 to an Able account and the date. And I save that for my taxes because, as I said, I can subtract the amount of my contributions up to $2,500 per account off of my income before Maryland state tax would be assessed on me. Okay, next one. There is the opportunity with Maryland Able to have a direct deposit of SSA funds or Social Security funds. It must either be the person who owns the account is managing the account, or if the person has someone who is managing the account, that manager must serve as the rep payee. You can also make payroll contributions directly into the account, and that can be for the beneficiary or account owner and the manager. Okay, so I should say and or, not or and. Okay, next question. And I'm going a little fast because I want to get to some of your questions. We have mobile apps for the ABLE account as well as the TrueLink card. The ABLE account, you go on to Vestwell app. Vestwell is the name of our program manager, and your ABLE account will come up. The nice thing about Vestwell is if Vestwell is managing your retirement plan, which one of the Maryland state retirement plans is managed by Vestwell, or a 529 college savings account, say the Oregon college savings account, and you have a Maryland ABLE account, when you log on, you'd be able to see all three accounts at the same and work on any of those accounts at the same time. The next slide, please. We're really excited that now people have access to their account wherever they are, whenever they want. So you're able to take a look at information about your account right from your phone, your iPad, or your computer at any time during the day. Next slide. This is just reminding you of the tax incentive. We've talked about that. So let's go to the next slide. And this slide I'm not going to go over, but it's all those numbers I threw at you because Lord knows there were so many numbers. And this is just a summary of what those numbers are. And I saw somebody said, what's that $100,000 limit? The $100,000 is only for Social Security cash benefits. That's all. It only affects Social Security cash benefits. What's the $2,000 limit? Currently, without an ABLE account, you can only have $2,000 in assets that are not protected before you start losing your benefits. And it's a gradual thing based on the amount of assets you have. Next slide, please. We've given you some additional resources to go to as you want to learn more about the Social Security, about ABLE, and information about how these programs work. And the last slide, please. If you'd like to contact us, go to www.marylandable.org or call our customer support. If you wanted to speak to me directly, please call that number or email through the contact us on the website and just tell them, and they will give me your contact information and I will reach out to you. Please follow us on Facebook and X. And we always post our things like something like this webinar we have as partners, and we're really happy to have this partnership. And so we want to make sure that we're sharing with our account holders information that we think would be beneficial for them and that they can use. All right, now let's talk about these questions.
Okay, great. So the first question, if there's no Medicaid payback after death, what happens to the money in the ABLE?
Okay, so Maryland has a law that says Maryland Medicaid will not seek to recapture money from a Maryland ABLE account. What that doesn't include, it says unless federally mandated to do so. So there's two things that doesn't include. One is if the person was in another state and had received services through Medicaid and now lived in Maryland and was getting Maryland Medicaid services, they could have a request from that other state to recapture some of those funds.
Okay.
Unless federally mandated to do so applies to any of us. And that is, as a person, when we pass with assets, Medicaid has the right to recapture any money that was paid by Medicaid for long-term care services. And I need to say something really important here because I know that sometimes doesn't feel comfortable for folks. And to put that in perspective, if you think about the amount of money that Medicaid has paid for you as a person receiving those services or a family member over the course of a year, that probably is a lot of money. And much more, it could be much more money than could ever be in an ABLE account. So you've gotten those services during your lifetime that have been paid for by the government. I can tell you that in the state of Maryland, we have had no recaptures. Across the country, I believe there have been 10, and they were in states that didn't have a similar law to Maryland's law.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question. It's saying, can you have your SSI deposit directly into ABLE? It was saying, isn't it problematic having SSI benefits, paychecks, and savings into a single ABLE account?
Okay, it's permitted, and we have worked with Social Security to be able to have that. Um, what is what you need to do is you need to approximate how much of the money is Social Security benefits and how much of it is other kind of contributions, so that if you ever had to close the account and return the money that wasn't spent from SSA, Social Security, you would have an approximate amount that you would return. We haven't had anybody who's had to turn money back at this point in terms of money that has gone in. So Social Security allows for this to happen. It is permitted because they will direct deposit into an ABLE account. We've worked through that. Okay.
Okay, great. Is there a way to set up pre-tax payroll deductions to be paid into a Maryland ABLE account through employers?
So currently, you can set up for tax. It's not pre-tax. I think it's as any contribution. Like if you set up a direct deposit on your paycheck, it's post-tax. So you could set up a direct deposit for a portion of your paycheck or your entire paycheck to a Maryland ABLE account, but it's going to be post-tax. Remember, these are not taxed while they're in the account, and it's not taxed when it comes out. But before it goes in from an employer, it would be. There's currently a law that's being put through Congress. It hasn't passed. It's on the House floor and the Senate floor that will allow employers to make direct deposits for retirement purposes to an ABLE account, and it won't count as income. So we're out there lobbying for that to go through as well.
Okay, great. If a person receives Medicaid, is their ABLE account limited to 100,000?
No, that 100,000 only affects the SSI benefit. It does not affect the SSDI benefit. It doesn't affect Medicaid. It doesn't affect any of those other benefits that people are getting.
All right, thanks. Are there limits on withdrawals for the person with a disability?
There are no limits to the withdrawals. It's their money, and they get to make those withdrawals, or the manager of the account, whoever is helping to manage the account. There are not limits to how much that person can take out. Another great story was I had a woman who called me and said that she needed help getting her lawyer to have access to her account. And I was like, oh my gosh, is everything okay? And she said, I'm buying a house. I'm buying a house in upstate New York next to my best friend. And the best thing is I get to go turn in my HUD voucher. So, she was taking a sizable amount of money out to put down on her house. So no, there are no limits.
Okay, and then thank you. So a question is if I pay for all costs associated with the family vacation, can I get reimbursed for my son's ABLE account via like ACH transfer to my bank, or how does that work?
You can yes, you keep your receipts and know how much of those costs were attributed to your son, and you can transfer the amount of the cost for your son, a portion of the hotel room, his travel fare, however you got there, his meals. All of that can be reimbursed if it's all paid for upfront. If it's not paid for upfront and you have a prepaid card, you could use that prepaid card to pay for those things as you go.
Okay, great. What can you not use an ABLE account fund for?
The only thing that we're aware that the IRS frowns upon and probably might have a hard time justifying is gambling. That's the only thing we know. And the other thing is buying presents for other people, because again, it's for the person, to benefit the person. Now, let me describe this scenario. If I had an ABLE account and I was inviting a bunch of friends over and having dinner, I could pay for the supplies to make dinner. I don't have to say, well, that's for somebody else. Really, it's for me. I'm having my friends over and we're having dinner. But you can't just go out and buy holiday presents and things like that for other people.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can tax refunds be automatically deposited?
We would love for that to happen, but that's not a possibility right now. We've got it on our list of our wish list, but it's not something that we can have happen right now.
Okay, thank you. Another question. So one of the questions we have is, how does this work if somebody lives in DC, since it would be a different state?
So if you live in DC, what I recommend you do is you go to abletoday.org, and there's a whole map of the United States. And you can click on states that are open for national enrollment. Maryland is one of them. You could have a Maryland Able account. The only thing that you wouldn't get as a benefit would be you wouldn't get to take the tax deduction unless you paid Maryland state taxes. Okay. If you were paying DC taxes and had a Maryland Able account, DC is not going to give you that tax benefit that the state of Maryland will. You could open an account as a DC resident any place in the country that is open for national enrollment. We always say to people, look at your home state or District of Columbia first, because they may have a tax benefit and it may be more beneficial for you to have your account in that location. But you could have a Maryland Able account.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so can the beneficiary pay to take friends out to dinner? Is that considered for their benefit? Like you said with the party, but if they went out?
Yeah, if they're going out and there's individual payments required, it would only be to pay for their meal, not for everybody at the table. Yeah.
All right. Hold on one second. Okay, and I think that is all of the questions. So thank you so much, Betty Ann. It was fabulous. And all right, everyone. So I just want to say thank you again, Yolanda and Betty Ann, for being here tonight. As you see already, we're getting great feedback and very helpful, and the presentation was wonderful. So thank you so much. Looking ahead, our virtual transition times meetings will be held once a month from now until June. All meetings will continue to be offered with simultaneous ASL and Spanish and archived on the PCR website. Also, please join us on Wednesday, March 25th for a Medicaid 101 training presented by Michael Dalto, High Note Consulting LLC. This presentation will provide a brief overview of Medicaid for people with disabilities, including covered services, eligibility groups, and how Medicaid connects to DDA services such as the Community Pathways Waiver. It will also explain how to maintain Medicaid coverage when eligibility changes, how Medicaid and Medicare work together in Maryland to reduce out-of-pocket costs, and where to get help from benefit planners. So thank you. Just so everyone knows, that is a change from the original one. How do we sign up for future presentations? So you can sign up by, when I send out everything, I'll send out the registration link. Yes, that does replace the CCS, but we will have that in the future.